These are my psychic predictions for Europe for 2022. Well, thank you again for joining the channel. If you've been following this channel, you'll know that I've made a lot of predictions this year, really with the idea of the turn of the year coming up. So I've done predictions for the world in general. I've done various areas of the world that I've done specific predictions for, and now I'm going to do my predictions for Europe. And obviously Europe's a big place with many things going on there because there's so many countries and peoples, and I will give you my highlights, tell you the best I can get for the things that I feel in my meditations that I feel are going to come up in the period ahead for Europe. I expect many more things will come up, and I'll address other things through the year. So if you're new to the channel, follow it, please, because if you follow the channel, you'll get the updates all the time, and you'll be able to see what comes true and what doesn't from these things I say. I always say to people, I'm not 100%, but I get a reasonably good number of things right, above what I think an average person could get. Certainly, I think above what many of the pundits and journalists get. I just get an insight. So these are my thoughts. These are my thoughts of the things ahead for Europe. So follow me. And anything that comes up during this, if there's anything you feel strongly about, or if you feel I'm right with or I'm wrong with, please put a comment. Stop the video, put a comment and carry on, because I'm always interested in your comments, because it stimulates more debate between us all, and also gets this whole channel moving, and particularly gets my thoughts going as well. Anyway, so these are my thoughts that I've had. I've been in meditation. I use various oracles in the background. I'm interested in Indian oracles. I'm interested in the Chinese oracles. I'm interested in clairvoyance, which is my main theme. I am a medium most of the time. That's my main work. But anyway, so these are my thoughts for Europe. So now overall, I feel that there's going to be, this is going to be a year, 2022 is going to be a year of a lot of political change in particular. There's going to be a lot of heads rolling, because I feel there's going to be a lot of unexpected and sudden political changes in Europe. And I feel that people who felt very secure in their position are going to be removed from power, and there's going to be some unusual and unexpected swings in the various elections that are coming up over this period, including Turkey. I include in Europe here. And I think generally when it comes to the euro, I feel that there's going to be a general slump in the value of the euro. The European economy is going to decline a bit. I mean, I think that doesn't take your psychic to tell you that much. Because we do obviously have, we're coming out of the pandemic and things. But my feeling is this change and drop in the European economy is going to be unpleasant, because we're going to get worldwide inflation, big time worldwide inflation. And that is going to create a lot of unemployment. Unemployment leads to tensions. It leads to unrest. And I think it will also lead to an ever-growing sort of upset with the migrants that have come into Europe, because I feel there's going to be a big surge in migrant immigration again into Europe in 2022. This will cause more sort of tensions and more sort of feelings of us and them. And I'll make a separate video later, because I think one of the great viruses of Europe is actually wokeism. It's being imported at the moment from Europe, or from America mainly, and I feel that it undermines people. It creates us and them, and it's a lot about resentment for the past and things like that. And I think there's going to be a turn against this sort of leftist Marxist liberalism, because it disguises itself as liberalism, but it's actually Marxism. So there's a political comment there. Sorry, what do you think? Put it in the comments. But I'll make a different video about that some other time. But I think it is going to be an issue. I think it's going to be a bigger growing issue, and a turn against that. Now, in history, we always get the swing of the pendulum, don't we? The pendulum swings to the left, it swings to the right, it swings towards separatism, it swings towards unity. When we get the pendulum in the middle, when it stops swinging so much, that's when we got things right. That's when we have peace, that's when we have prosperity, that's when we have a proper democracy. And so I think we've got a swinging pendulum We got a swinging pendulum, and I think that gradually hopefully will get a sense of balance in due course. But there's a lot going on in Europe at the moment, and one of the areas that I've focused my attention on is Poland, because we have at the moment the Belarusian border problem. And I think what's going to happen there, my feeling is that Russia really is behind this. I did some stuff recently for Russian TV, and I've had my focus on Russia because I did some predictions about Russia. So my thoughts are with this, when I've done my meditations, when I've tried to tune into these things, that Russia is actually behind this flood of immigrants. I think there is hidden agendas, wokeism's part of it too, like I said, hidden agendas to undermine the countries of the world's sense of self-worth and history, and all those type of things are being undermined deliberately, I feel, by an agenda both by Russia and China. But I'm going off on another direction there, sorry. But I think Poland generally will stand firm on this, and we won't get them breaking through in Poland. I think Poland and the Eastern Europeans are going to become quite at loggerheads with the European Union about the free flow of people, the Schengen Agreement, I think they call it, don't they? So Poland, I think, also will struggle a bit economically, because Europe itself will be struggling economically, and I think they'll struggle in 2022. I'm seeing a lot of food shortages around the world in 2022. I think Poland's going to be one of those areas that's going to struggle with it. I'm not seeing starvation, but I'm seeing, things like struggle for getting your food and getting fresh foods and things like that. And simultaneously, I think Poland's going to be spending much more on having to spend more on the army to prop up these borders and things like that. And generally, because of what's going on in Ukraine, which I'll talk about later, Poland is also going to start arming itself hard because it's going to be worried about Russian intrusions into the previous eastern parts of the Soviet Union and so forth. So I think there's going to be a lot going on there in Poland. So it's going to be spending more on the army. And I think this will cause a lot of political instability in Poland, actually, and the calls for a change of government. This is going to be one of those areas we might get sudden changes of government. I actually think Poland, actually, in the longer term, Poland's a country that I feel is a country that is a sleeping giant in many ways. Just like when China awoke, we suddenly discovered its potential. And I think Poland's in a similar position. I think one day Poland will be comparable with Germany with its power in Europe. And I see Poland becoming, not 2022, but I feel in the longer term, Poland is going to become a very powerful country and a very proud country. And I think it's going to have a very strong cultural influence upon Europe in ways that will change its music, change its attitude to art. I'm seeing quite a cultural flowering in Poland in the longer term. So Poland, I think, is going to be a place we're going to look to as a country where we can learn a lot from. And, economically do well, and IT and all those type of things as well. But I'm particularly focused, and I felt, about this lovely cultural stuff that I feel coming as wealth comes to Poland. But right now, it's a bit of a struggle for that. So I think the Eastern European countries generally will be collectively pressing for an ending of the Schengen Agreement. And I think this is going to be another big issue that's going to start to really dominate the agendas of discussions in Europe about the free movement of people, because of another surge of immigration breaking through in other areas of Europe. All the weak spots that we've seen before, more people pouring in, and everybody in despair about what they're going to do about this. And it's causing, I think it will cause social unrest. I think also I saw something about the Romanian government, and I felt as if this was another area where we're getting a number of political issues about changes of government and things like that. I felt as if there was going to be a sort of a corruption scandal there. And I think we're going to see a number of corruption scandals around the world, actually. One's going to stimulate the other, where money has been used to bribe politicians, and that money has been coming in from a foreign power, and I feel that foreign power is actually China. And when a lot of people are actually going to be proven to be in China's pockets. And I get the feeling something's going to happen like that, particularly with Eastern Europe. And I see that possibly as Romania as being one of those countries. Now, I also see lots of other tensions happening. We're going to, like I said, I feel as if there's going to be more pressure on, say, the Greek border and the Turkish borders for immigration. But I feel growing tensions also, again, between Greece and Turkey. They obviously were at war with each other in the past. But I feel as if, as people are bringing it across Turkey starts to think, right, we're not going to hold on to any of these immigrants anymore. We can't let them back into... We'll let them go wherever they want. If they want to go to Iran and Iraq, they can go that way. If they want to go to Europe, they can go that way, but they're not staying here. And I feel as if there's going to be almost a blackmail of Europe saying we're going to get rid of our immigrants now. And it's going to cause tensions, particularly with Greece. And I feel that we might get some... I think we're going to see a lot of problems there, because I think we're going to see both Greece and Turkey hard economic times ahead. And again, a lot of social unrest for those times. So again, I think possibly changes of government again, particularly in Turkey. I think there might be political uprisings in Turkey. Possibly military actions on the borders with Iraq, actually. And tensions also created by Israel with Turkey as well. Now, those are common sort of areas of problem, but I think, as I've said, I feel as if Israel will hit the Iranian nuclear facility during 2022, and Turkey's going to be unsure which way to turn. Is it going to turn to Europe? Is it going to turn to the East? So we're going to see a lot of problems there, and I see Turkey illegally, as it were, jettisoning some of its immigrants, and that causing tensions in that region and for Europe as well. So I think there's going to be generally quite a lot of political instability throughout Europe. If we go to the north of the country now, of Europe, for example, now, if we look to Sweden, I feel that there's going to be much more of a move to the right. In fact, I think there's going to be quite a lot of movements to the right wing in Europe over the 2022. Not sudden, but gradual changes in that direction. I think this is going to be a reaction to the fact, particularly like Sweden, small country, a big country with a small population, but a very high immigrant population there. And I just think that, cultural mixing sometimes can cause tensions, and I think the Swedes are beginning to feel this, actually. And I think it's not always spoken about. Everybody tries to be politically correct in everything they say, but you have to look to the consciousness of the people themselves. And I think, again, we've got a sort of a growing resentment about, is it still our country? And at the same time, as soon as you start to get unemployment, all these things work okay when everybody's fed well and everybody's in jobs, but when we get large groups of people on all types of groups out of work, I just feel we get tensions. And I think we're going to start beginning to see tensions even in places like Stockholm, where I think there could be protests and things. And I've never seen protests in Stockholm much on the news much, but I mean, I feel as if that's going to be an area where there might be a lot of unrest and a lot of extremists coming to the fore here, and possibly gunmen and things like that. So again, I think Sweden's got problems ahead in that respect. Again, Sweden for the long term, I feel the Scandinavian countries will, in the longer term, because as I say, I feel longer term that Europe will break up, but we'll get a Scandinavian alliance between Denmark, Sweden, Norway and Sweden too. I know they've been at loggerheads in the past, but much more unity between those two countries, Finland and Latvia and all the countries of the north. I feel forming a much more of and Estonia, forming a much more Scandinavian type of alliance around the Baltic in longer term. A sort of a trading agreement, but turns much more into a political agreement. We have some of that type of thing in place already, but this is going to be much more so in terms of it's way ahead for the future. I feel. So I'm basically saying that I feel Europe will break into smaller parts in the long term, not in 2022, but in the long term, with a German federation, a French federation, a Scandinavian federation sort of thing. Not strictly that, but that's the sort of way I feel it dividing in times to come within independent countries like Switzerland again, and so on, finding their niches in between. So there's just similarly to Sweden, I feel the Netherlands is going to have very similar problems to Sweden, almost identical to what I've described here. I feel uncertainty will be blighting their politics in the way forward. I feel there's going to be a problem with the election result of some sort. I feel in the Netherlands, in Holland. I feel something to do with a hung parliament, or maybe something like that, where we can't, for some reason, we can't call who the government's going to be. There's going to be something where there's a held up. Not quite like it happened in America, where there's all the accusations of poll rigging and things. But I feel if something happens where there's something where the election's either too close to call or there's a problem besets it. So, like I say, when I see these things, it's as it says in the Bible, through a glass darkly. I only see part of it. I can't see it all. But I feel that some of the things I was feeling about that. And my attention also went to the Dutch royal family, strangely enough, because I felt as if them, not just through 2022, but generally, I just get a feeling that a growing popularity in a topic here that was once probably very unpopular in many respects for many people in the Netherlands, but I feel a unity coming through the royal family. It's the same sort of things happened in the UK in many ways. The Queen is a very much a unifying influence. I think the Queen in the UK is going to pass away in the end of 2022. But it's a strange sort of unifying factor, but I feel as if Holland's going to start thinking like that. Also in the Netherlands, and I see blackouts coming. I think we're going to get power cuts around the world, but I feel as if something happens there to create blackouts. It might be a flood or something like that creates a lot of blackouts in the country and the power grid going down. And I also feel that the Dutch and the Danish, the Dutch have been very pro-European for many, right from the start of the formation of the European Union. But I feel the Danish are going to be one of the first countries to want to leave Europe, and they're going to find it hard, but I feel that the moves are going to be moving forward much more in 22. Similarly with the Dutch, I think we're going to see gradual moves away from European Union. I see Holland, well, I don't know if you prefer me to call it Netherlands or Holland, but I see them in the longer term becoming much more like Britain's trying to do. It used to be very much a seafaring nation. I feel them reaching out to the further corners of the world again, becoming a trading nation again, outside of dependently on Europe, and also very close economic ties with Britain in the long term, not in 2022, but I thought I'd just bring a few longer term things in as well. And actually Holland and the rest of it, if you're Flemish, one of my books is actually printed in Flemish. What to do when you're dead. You try to pronounce that. But it's in Flemish. Anyway, so those of you that speak Flemish might like to look for that one. I think it's still in print somewhere. I don't make any profits from it, but I just let you know it's there. In fact, quite a lot of my books are in foreign languages. I've got my dream books are in Portuguese, and that same book, What to Do When You're Dead, is in Portuguese, and there's some in Spanish. And I think we've got a German one out there somewhere too, and Russian if you like it, and Turkish. I've got one of my books is in Turkish too. The Psychic Case book is in Turkish. Okay, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent again. So we've dealt with those areas. Let's have a look what else. I'll just look at my notes again now. So I was talking about the immigration problems, wasn't I? That they're going to get worse, and I think we're going to see a surge. I did say that last year. And of course, then we had all this problem with the Belarusian border, and it's happened this year. But again, so I'm repeating almost a similar prediction for 2022 as I did in 2021 and 2020 for 2021, that we'd have a surge of immigration. We have had that, I feel, a second surge, and I think this will actually cause a much more of a break, causes of stress within the EU and the free movement of people, and a much more nationalistic, not nationalism but pride in the nation type of thing is going to be quite important to some countries, particularly France. I want to come on to that in a moment. Now, the vaccines and the we have at the moment, as I'm talking, I'm going to have a drink of tea. Just bear with me a moment. Sat there looking at it with the corner of my eye. So we've got vaccine problems, people not being vaccinated. We've got the new Omicron variant coming out. We've got Austria making it mandatory to have a vaccine passport. Now, Germany's talking about it at the moment. Although I think there'll be a lot of resistance to this on all sides, I feel that Germany will adopt the same idea of a vaccine passport, and this will start to spread through the European Union and gradually, I think, become pretty much everywhere in the European Union in particular, that people have to carry some form of passport for the vaccine. There will be, of course, and there's a lot of potentially dangerous human rights issues with this. It's like an ID cards. We had that problem here in the UK. Should we or should we not have ID cards? So this will be big topics of conversation in 2022, even though I think we will start to see, after the spring months, we'll see a dying down of the virus again. I feel every year we've got problems and variants coming back, and I think we will see more and more political moves and quite difficult moves for passports and for travel. This will be for things like travel and going into entertainment venues, into music venues, and how on earth do we enforce those things without causing more social unrest? And does everybody get one? What about an illegal person? Again, all these things create division. And I'm not saying one way or the other whether I agree with it or don't agree with it, but I just say I see it coming. I see that's going to be a big issue in 2022 as we get more surges. And like I say, I feel in the longer term, not in 2022, but we're going to see two more big viruses. I wrote about that in my book. Anyway, I might as well mention this one while I'm at it. Be happy, right? I keep putting these adverts in, don't I? But I have to make a living too, guys. But anyway, it's a good book. My book about can we be happy during these difficult times. I went to India to see this man, Sharavana Baba, who is a fantastic, wonderful, beautiful, holy man who comes up with some lovely ideas. And we got into talks about what is happiness. And I considered the idea of what is happiness. I took on ideas from the Gnostics, for example. I wrote a few political things in here about Donald Trump and things. I've written about the future of the world and my thoughts about the future of the world in here. But more importantly, and this goes with all this, what I'm talking about now, can we not sort of live happily in this seemingly difficult world? We think everything, we externalize ourselves and say that the whole world, things go wrong here, things go wrong there, and our happiness is dependent so much on all the things we see on the news and what's happening in the world. But actually inside ourselves it's a peaceful place. It can be a place of permanent happiness. So I talk about ideas like that, and many more, about how sometimes even if we just internalize our attention, the world and our attitude to the world can change and we can become happier people. It did much better than my other book, Be Miserable, but but this one does quite, and it's got some funny stuff in it as well because I like to make it humorous. Right, okay, so I think the mandatory vaccines will be in Austria, in Germany, and spread around the world. I think there'll be a lot of resistance to this in France. And France will be one of the earlier ones, I think, to try to introduce vaccine passports. And I feel a lot of tension there over that, about, liberty and all that business. So I think there's going to be tensions there. I think things like, generally, all this coronavirus is still going to cause a suppressed market for tourism. That's going to affect places like Greece and Italy and Spain and Canary Islands and everywhere for tourism. I think we're going to see continual low take up of holidays. I don't see a sudden great boom. So it's all over, guys. We're gonna move forward. Even if we had vaccine passports, I still think there will be slow take up. And I think Spain will struggle from the loss of revenue that's been happening. I think there will be further unrest in Spain. I think there'll be unrest in Catalonia, because again, we've got this problem where people are out of work. We've got lots of businesses closing because they're dependent on tourism. We've got a growing sense of why should we be told what to do from Catalonia. Will Catalonia ever get its independence? I mean, I went to Barcelona and I thought, what a beautiful country and what a different people they were to the Spanish, but also at the same time, a bit like the Scots are different to the British. I think it'll be a long, long time before Catalonia attains independence. I certainly understood their feelings about that there when I was there. But I think it will remain part of Spain for the foreseeable future. There may be also in 2022 more arguments over Gibraltar, actually, and that might be a distraction tactic when we get problems in the Catalonian people wanting to become more independent. So I see things like that going on. Other tiny little countries like the Vatican City. I focused on Italy a bit, and the Vatican came to mind. And I saw the Pope having a very nasty fall. So we're going somewhere off in a different sort of direction here, more personal than country-wise. But I saw the Pope having a nasty fall, and I saw him falling on steps. It's like I'm coming down marble steps. I don't know if I was in front of the Vatican or I was somewhere like that, but I saw him having a fall. He'll be all right, but I just felt I saw something like that happening with him. I don't see... I don't think it's a scandal I saw with the Catholic Church, like we had all the child scandals and things, but I felt as if some information from the past will be revealed by the Catholic Church. Now, all sorts of crazy things come to mind when I say something like that. Do they know about UFOs? Do they hold the body of Christ somewhere in the Vatican or something like that? No, I felt as if it's some historical document that is revealed, and I felt as if this would be quite fascinating for the world, and it makes us all ask, what else do they have? Something from the Renaissance. It was something that was put there during the time of the Renaissance. It's a Renaissance copy of something. Anyway, so that's something to do with the Bible and things like that. So there's something happening there, but I see the Pope had a fall. So I hope he's well, because he's a good man, I feel. I'm not a Catholic. I don't believe in following any religion ultimately. I think we must follow spirituality. But if you're going to be a Catholic, be a good Catholic. And if you're going to be a Christian, be a good Christian, and whatever, just they're all good paths for people. But anyway, so like I say, I don't really want to be saying anything horrible about the Pope, but I just because he's a good man. But I just feel that there's a fall. Now, France. The French elections, we've got those coming up in 2022, I believe. And I think they're going to be another one that's going to be an extremely tight call between Emmanuel Macron. I think he's going to be on very shaky ground this time round, because I feel lots of things going on in France about calls for liberty, and the vaccine passports and unemployment and things like that happening. And I think Marine Le Pen is going to become quite a powerful force against him. So I think it's going to become a scrap between Macron and Le Pen. Now the other guy there, what's his name? I've made a note of his name. Eric Zemmour, that's it. Zemmour. I might pronounce it wrong. Apologies if I have. I got a feeling there's going to be a bit of a conflict between Le Pen and Zemmour, and it could almost throw it into chaos. I feel that when the elections are called, there's a split between them, and then they come together again at the last minute. They come a little bit too late, but I think that Macron loses power, just loses power. So I'm vague about this because I feel I can't see it completely, because we have free will, but it's my feeling that I think he's going to go this time, and because I feel a move away from the liberalism, wokeism and things, particularly in France, because I see France having a big debate about what is it to be French, and I see this causing quite a lot of tension, and obviously that on the one hand can be a good argument to have, but also it can be taken to extremes. It's like, we don't want to see sort of right-wing activism in a nasty way. So I just feel that those are the sort of tensions I think we're going to start to see around the time of the election in France. And again, this is going to be social unrest, and I think resentment between peoples, because all these things go well when we're all well fed. They all go well when we got plenty of money. They all go well when we're comfortable. But as soon as we start to find our lives are affected, people get a bit more bullshit with each other, don't they? And we end up with conflicts. So I think the French population too, like I said, I feel long term, I feel the breakup of the European Union eventually, not 2022, but I think we'll see a lot more Euroscepticism in France in 2022. And again, this may also create conflicts and tension there. I also saw flooding in Paris, which I mentioned in one of my other videos. I might have a note later on, I might come back to that again. But I feel as if there's going to be massive floods across Europe again. We had them in 2021. I feel we're going to get a second lot. High winds as well. And might even get an earthquake somewhere. I'm feeling a European earthquake, and I'm not quite sure where it is. Now, the typical places are Italy, but I feel as if it's somewhere unusual. I just feel it's somewhere unusual that I see this, where we wouldn't expect it. Okay, so that's the best I can get with that. That fishing rights between, and the arguments between the fishermen of France and Britain, they kind of put the cap on it a bit recently. They're still not quite resolved the problem. They keep kicking it into the long grass. But I still feel that we're going to get some problems again with that whole thing. We're going to see them at loggerheads again. And I see problems between Britain and France, big arguments over European borders and things like that, and Ireland, and, you know, that all flaring up again. But funnily enough, I see nonetheless that Britain and France will work very, very closely together militarily, despite these other issues they have. They sort of work together for a common enemy. And I'm seeing problems ahead in my world predictions, if you look at it, for Taiwan this year. And I'm seeing French and British Navy, particularly aircraft carriers, working in tandem with each other in the China Seas. So bridges are kind of being built between Britain and France, I feel, in unusual ways. And although they might want to switch the power off sometimes, and there might be all sorts of arguments like that, we've had those in 2021. But I feel that there's still those type of arguments there. But I think as Macron leaves, I think we'll actually get better relations between Britain and France, and that will also help Ireland. I think Ireland again even will leave the EU one day too. I mean, I think they'll go independent, and I even feel that Ireland will become much more at peace with Britain. I know our histories have been very much diversive, but I feel that they will turn to the UK for economic unity in due course one day. They might have the pound one day in Ireland, I feel, which sounds preposterous now. Definitely not in 2022, but in the longer term. So where did I get to? I'm just looking at my notes now because there's a lot to tell you here today, guys. So I've talked to you about the breakup of the EU for the longer term. There'll be a federation, I think, a particularly big federation around Germany and another one around France. I see I see those two countries separating ultimately and having their own unions, as it were. I think it'll be a good thing, actually, as well. And I've got the note there for the floods. Extra high winds this year. And oh, yes, that was another thing. Because there was the winds. But I saw this thing about like a big flattened forest. It was like a huge great forest, like the Black Forest or something like that. And all the trees, every single one, was completely flat as if they'd been trod on, you know. And I don't know if this is a wind or something, but I saw a flattened pine forest. It seemed to be a pine forest as opposed to a deciduous forest. So I saw something like that, as tall trees all came down at once. So whether we're going to get some extraordinary powerful winds after wet, I don't know, but there's something I felt like that. Now this conflict with Russia, and obviously we've got the Ukraine problem happening at the moment. I talked about this in 2020 for 2021, and it's come up, hasn't it? And it's happening now. So this is one of my 2021 predictions sort of rolling into 2022, really. Now, I think right now, I'm talking now in December 2021. Right now, I think we're going to put the cap on it. We'll put the lid on it. There's all sorts of talk because we've got Russian troops on the border. I don't think they're going to go away, though. And I think there will be an escalation for this next year, around November time, because in the US, when the US have their midterms, there's going to be a lot of problems over Biden. I don't think Biden's going to last very long there, and there's going to be a big upset in the USA, I feel. And once that happens, I feel that countries of the world such as China and Russia might take advantage that the USA has got its eye off the ball. And I feel that sort of time may see us with conflicts both in Taiwan and in Ukraine at the same time. Divide and conquer, two different areas, two fronts, that's going to divide NATO. It's going to divide Europe. It's going to divide decisions in it. It's going to be a lot of fluster and a lot of indecision. Who's going to go in? Who's going to act? And I think France and Germany will act in unison, but after a lot of political mess between the two of them. So they're acting too late. But I saw Ukraine having an attack from Russia, but fighting like the French resistance or the Dutch resistance did, in such a way that you just cannot move forward. Ferocious fighting, like the Russians did when Germany invaded. I feel that that there's a ferocious repel by the Ukrainians, which really takes Russia completely by surprise, because they outnumber them. They got better equipment. They're going in on territory they understand. But I still feel that they're pushed, kind of not pushed back completely. They're stopped. They're stalled. Russia stops, right? And then I feel that there's going to be a big political battle over this, and they will be forced to retreat again. And even they expected support from the Russian-speaking Ukrainians. I feel that doesn't come, and I fear. I think this will. This is how it will work out anyway. And I think this whole fear of Russia thing is going to keep places like Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and things in the European Union, and they want to build their ties much stronger with the European Union. Many more countries wanting to become part of NATO, including all the countries around. Affected by the Ukrainian situation. I don't think Ukraine will be put into NATO yet, but I think eventually they will become part of NATO. But it won't be in 2022, I fear. And also, again, I was talking before about the Scandinavian connection in the further future. That will also Estonia, I said, but Latvia, I think, and Lithuania will become part of that union of Scandinavian countries in the longer term. I mean, centuries ago, Scandinavia was a very, very powerful force, and I think I see that coming again. I see it going back to the earlier times of European history when they had a very powerful northern alliance there. So where have I got to here? I also said Poland would join that alliance. That's another thing I've written there. It would look north ultimately. But Poland would actually become a very independent country, but would still have close ties with. It would be an independent country, but have close ties with both Scandinavia and the German Federation in the longer term. Okay, so that's me going on. So, I lost my thread now. So, okay, and I said Poland will one day be almost as prosperous as Germany. Again, lots going on with Russia still. Serbia, that's another interesting area, because I feel as if Serbia is going to be looking much more to Russia than it is to Europe. And I feel much stronger increase in ties with Serbia and Russia. And I see something like, I don't know if this is possible, but I just see a big sort of trade deal and a tourism deal with Serbia. Russian tourists I see going there, and Serbian going to Russia and things like that. Some deal being done there in the Balkans about that. I think in Italy, I was, because we're hoping to spend a lot of time in Italy in the near future. We'll be doing some transmissions from there in due course. But I see in Italy that there's going to be some earthquakes. And I know I said about earthquakes in an unusual place, and this is separate to what I was saying for that. But I felt as if something this time would be happening in the north of Italy. I mean, all the volcanoes and things are down by Vesuvius and Etna, but I felt as if there was something happening in the north of Italy with eruptions and with seismic activity, I want to say, and also eruptions continuing around the world, because I said in 2020 for 2021 this is going to be a year of volcanoes, I said, and it has been, hasn't it? We've seen all over the world massive volcanic stuff, particularly in the Canary Islands and things, and I saw those continuing. So Etna, definitely. Vesuvius, maybe. So there's lots of worrying earth changes, I think, in the period ahead. In fact, Edgar Cayce talked about these things. Whether it would be quite to the level that Edgar Cayce ever mentioned, I don't know. But I just feel as something we're going to get a lot more of those things as the world warms up. And I know these things don't. Global warming does not affect seismic activity. They're separate things. But I feel as if we're getting these two things coming simultaneously with us. We might spot it's something to do with the sun in due course. I think the Italian economy, I feel, is going to do very well in 2022. And I think towards the end of 22, I think we're going to see a very much improvement in property prices and things in Italy. So if you're going to buy your home in Italy, it's the time to do it now. And long term, I don't think we need to. I think long term we do need to worry about the Italian banks with the Italian situation. Again, when I'm looking at the longer term future of Italy, I think we're going to see a lot of problems economically for Italy. But I think it will ultimately pull through. But it will cause ruptures with Europe, because who's going to bail it out? And I also felt as if there might be an earthquake around Lisbon, but not the big one. I think they had one back in 1755, which was dramatic. But I think we're going to see some earthquake activity again in Lisbon area. But I don't worry. Don't go emigrating. It's not going to be like the 1755 one, but I just felt as if there was something like that. So we're going to get a lot of environmental problems for the world as the world goes forward, and these are going to bring countries of the world together, all of us. So like I said, in 2022 we're going to see this worldwide. We're going to see this problem with Taiwan and China, and the EU will get involved. It will be slow to act. Like I said, I saw the French sending aircraft carriers to the China Seas. International pressure, I feel, was going to cause the EU to have to rethink trade with China. And that's going to be a real big one. And this is when all that corruption stuff I started talking about is going to come out. That, people are in the pockets of China. It will be in people's interest to expose that when we need to break our deals with China. And I think a lot's going to be revealed with that. And I'm seeing... And this one's important. I'm seeing a really big data leak of some sort. And this is going to affect European leaders. We quite often get it with American stuff. But I'm seeing the European data leak. And this reveals lots of things going on. Backhanders and money particularly associated with China. Bribes. Big bribes. And corruption within the European Union. Not the Union itself, more individual countries, but I'm seeing lots of that going on. Going to be a year ahead in 2022. China's going to be top of the agenda. Go and have a look at my videos about that, particularly the world predictions. I covered most of that in. I covered it also. I'll be doing my Australian predictions later on too, and you can see it in my American predictions. It's worth looking at them all if you're interested in this, because I pick up on bits and pieces about each country in all of them. So I'm pretty much there. I'm sorry I haven't mentioned everybody. There's loads of huge swathes of Europe that I've missed. But I think it gives you a general feeling of what I'm seeing as the way ahead. Let's see if I get it right. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong. I know the press I thought was quite nice. They called me the new Nostradamus. I don't think I'm that by any means, but I do get quite a lot right, and if I get it wrong, I accept that I sometimes get it wrong too. So, but like I say, we mustn't let these things worry us all the time. We mustn't be ruling our lives around the idea that, you know, everything's going wrong in the world. Because we can, any point in the world's history, there's always been bad things going on somewhere along the line. You know, we've had plagues, we've had wars, we've had famines and all sorts of things. So, in all of human history, we've actually been in quite a pretty good part of human history where we can all live like kings and eat like kings and have many facilities like, you know, this screen you're looking at now and all the rest of it. You know, I mean, we should count our blessings, but we should also look at the world and think to ourselves, you know, what's it all about? Is it all about all these things we see out there and all the troubles we see in the world? Or should we not be thinking about that this world is a place that we go through? It's a bridge that we pass over. We don't build on that bridge, do we? If we pass over it, we're passing through this life. We're passing through this world. And if we can take that kind of transcendental attitude, that it's all passing through, that it's all moving through us in many ways. It's just a film, it's a movie, it's a game that's happening. Then we can put our attention where it's meant to be, which is internally. You know, we live from the inside rather than live from the outside, worrying about all the things that go on in the world and also in our own private lives and what happens around with all the people that cause us trouble, let alone all the political problems and things. So we can live focused on that inner self and know that that's what is who we are. We are that human spirit passing through this world, and we will one day pass through this world and out of this world, you know, and death will come to us all, and it's not a bad thing. It's something where we just, the end of that journey, the end of that chapter as we move on, and as we do so through mediumship, that, you know, all those loved ones come with us into the next place. But we can actually become very, very happy people. And the reason I say all these spiritual things is purely to push my book. No, but it's true. We live happily, be happy, and hopefully you'll go and have a look and enjoy that. And go and have a look at my new website, which is also, my website. But by the time you watch this, we might have the new one up. There's going to be a lot of new interactive stuff where you can get involved and talk to each other and all sorts of things on there. Anyway, I'm going on now. Thank you for spending such a long time with me, listening to these videos. Very much appreciated. I'll make a few shorter ones next, I promise, and I'll see you soon. So thanks for joining me. Bye for now.